Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast with Michelle Chalfant, a place to delve into who we are, how we got that way, and explore what it takes to be a healthy grown-up. With an extensive toolbox and guests with varied expertise, Michelle will lead us on a journey to learn what it's like to live authentically and to love ourselves just the way we are. And now, here's Michelle.
Hello, everyone. Happy post Cinco de Mayo weekend. I hope everyone had a lovely Cinco de Mayo. We here in Nashville had a fabulous weekend because, yes, we did it. We went through and completed yet another adult chair weekend intensive. It was a fabulous weekend. I loved every single minute of it. I just love to teach. I love to talk about the adult chair. And I have to say, if you're listening to this show, I really think that you're a special, beautiful person because the people that come to these classes are just amazing. I love everybody that comes to these classes, and I realize the comments and the emails that come in, like such really beautiful people that follow the adult chair. So thank you to all of you. It's just, I realize the adult chair work really attracts some just amazing people. So if you're listening to this show, consider yourself pretty darn amazing. But anyway, we had a fabulous weekend. It was really, really great. And we did some transformational work and we always have a lot of fun. There's always a lot of laughing too. So it was great. And I'm sorry for those of you. There were a lot of people I know that wanted to come. And like I said before, I will never do it in May again because weddings, baby showers, everyone was writing in saying they want to come, but weddings and baby showers and graduations and bridal showers are happening in May, which I had forgotten about because I think I did this class 2 years ago in May and the same problem that slipped my mind. So anyway, never again. We're actually looking at trying to get maybe to Florida again to do an adult chair intensive and Northeast for sure. And somewhere out west. So those are the plans that we are considering. Those are the locations that we are considering, and those will be on the website hopefully in the next month. My team and I are trying to figure out where to go next. So, and I know I talked about the UK in June. Unfortunately, that is not happening yet. That will happen, just not quite yet. We're not quite ready for that. A few things have gotten in the way. I'm sorry. I have a lot of content in my head that I try to create and get out, and I can't do 5 things at once. I have to do one thing at a time, which I'm doing. And anyway, so UK will be happening, but I just am not quite sure when yet. So anyway, all right. So today's show was so great. I had an awesome interview with a woman named Natalia Juarez, and she is a breakup coach. What I realize is that we don't end relationships well. We don't know how to end relationships. We don't know what to do. We don't know when to get a divorce or end a relationship or a partnership or a friendship, whatever it is. We aren't great at that as humans. So I really like to find people that line up with the adult chair model that can speak about whatever they're doing in their careers, but it lines up with the adult chair. And this woman does just that. So I think you're going to love the show. We talked about attachment theory and love avoidant and love addicts and all kinds of great things. And here's the great question that we talked about was, how do you know when to end a relationship? So many clients come in and they go, I don't know. Do you think it's time? This is what's happening with him. This is what's happening with her. I don't know. How do you know when it's time? So we talked about that. And this woman is an expert on actually breaking up, which it was so cool because I'd never met a breakup coach before. And she's excellent at her craft. So we will get to that in one moment. I first have to thank and give a little shout out to our sponsor for today, which is again, Ned. I love this company, you guys. They're one of our newer sponsors, and Ned produces full-spectrum hemp oil products that contain CBD, extracted from the finest organic hemp plants and only sources its products from local farms and communities. From seed to bottle, all of Ned's products are energetically infused with love, gratitude, and positive vibrations. Using binaural beats, their products are attuned to the frequencies that are associated with remedying depression and anxiety while producing DNA repair, focus, balance, and calm. CBD cannabinoids have a wide range of benefits and regulate nearly every biological system in the human body. Some of the best known are a sleep aid to treat also insomnia, which is that's what I use it for. And it works so great as an anti-inflammatory, as a natural pain reliever, which, by the way, if you are someone that works out really hard and you're in pain after, CBD oil is amazing for your muscles and for the pain that we are in when we have a hard workout. I use it for that as well. A lot of my clients use it to treat anxiety or PTSD, depression, and chronic conditions such as epilepsy, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and more. And the question that people typically say is, does it get you high? And the answer is no. There is a minuscule amount of THC, which is less than 0.3% allowed by law. And that is the part that gets people high. So this CBD oil does not get you high. So thank you, Ned, for supporting our show. And today we get 15% off with free shipping by going to helloned.com/adult. Again, that's helloned.com/adult. Thank you, Ned, for sponsoring the show. All right, let's get to the breakup coach. This was so great. Okay, Natalia Juarez is a Toronto-based breakup coach and dating strategist. After going through a broken engagement in 2010, she became obsessed with healing her own broken heart and learning to date in a better way to find real, healthy love. She now helps men and women through the entire spectrum of breakups or divorces, including breakup recovery, initiating breakups, getting exes back, and infidelity recovery. She believes that breakups can be tremendous opportunities for self-discovery and authentic growth. Her work has been covered in publications around the world, including the Wall Street Journal, GQ, The Guardian, Vice Media, NPR, and I saw her also on Good Morning America. That was such a treat. So I think you're going to love the show, you guys. And Natalia totally knows her stuff, and she is right in line with the adult chair model. So here we go with Natalia. Hello, Natalia, and welcome to the Adult Chair podcast. I'm so happy to have you on today.
Hello, Michelle, and thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show.
Yeah. I love the idea of a breakup coach. I don't think I've ever met a breakup coach. I've never met anyone that does that. I was like, that's so needed. That's so cool. I need to have her on the show. So
I hear that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, have you met another breakup coach? Because I've never even heard of such a thing.
I haven't. I've met a few online now over the years, but not here in Toronto, at least.
Oh, well, I have never heard of such a thing, and you are needed. So thank you for all that you do. What I'd like to do is I want to hear, and I'd love for you to share with all of our listeners, how did you even become a breakup coach? I know you have a story. So if you wouldn't mind, why don't we start there? Why don't you share your story with us?
Sure. I have the longer version is on my website. But the shorter version is just before I turned 30, I went through a big broken engagement. And this was the ending of my second long-term relationship in my 20s. And I just could not believe that this was happening again. And because I knew how hard it was to recover after my first 7-year relationship ended when I was 25. And I was devastated to be losing my partner, my relationship, my home, because I was the one who moved out. And it was just such a difficult time. And yet, having that all happen around the time of turning 30, I was able to reflect on just how kind of dramatic my 20s had been in relationships. And I thought, I really do not want to recreate my 20s and my 30s. And I totally looked to myself and I thought, I am the common denominator in my life. So let's see what I can do. And the only thing I knew to do was I found a therapist. I started reading every great relationship book I could find. And I definitely did over that year discover a lot of things about myself that had been leading me into these relationships that were kind of doomed from the start.
Ooh, so would you share with us, like, what were some of the things that you discovered?
One of the major ones, which we can talk about if you would like, is attachment theory.
Love attachment theory.
Me too. Attachment theory really changed my life. And I didn't even discover that for a couple of years, but I discovered that I had an anxious style in love. And I was attracting men who were avoidant. So we had these like very passionate, come here, go away relationships. They were just so chemical. And yeah, so I really realized that I didn't have an experience of healthy, secure love. And then what I did was I committed myself to start dating, to kind of expand my dating life, to be open to a lot of people that I may not be, quote unquote, attracted to. Because clearly attraction-based dating had not worked. So I thought I need to start dating based on compatibility.
You know what? I just love what you said. And this is what so many people do, in my opinion, incorrectly.
Yes.
Is that when we end a relationship, we blame the other person. Or what I like, what you just said is you went within, you said, okay, what's going on within me? Because you're the point of your attraction for your reality, for your life, etc. So I like that you went inside of yourself and said, okay, what's going on? Why is this happening? What do I need to look at within myself?
Yes. And I think and once again, being at that point of 30, like how many times can you blame other people for your reality? Because like, if I keep attracting, crazy boyfriends, well, why am I attracting crazy boyfriends? And it was also, to go to myself was just so much more empowering.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
I love that. Okay. So then you found out a lot about your attachment style, which is so beautiful. And I did a podcast actually I don't even remember. I think it was back in May with a Patty Elledge, and we did a lot of talking about attachment wounding. And it is so important that we understand our attachment styles because that shows up in relationships. So love that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's talk about, give us some advice on breaking up or divorce, and like, how do we know when to pull the trigger? Because sometimes we stay too long, or sometimes, we're avoiding again. If we're in the avoidant attachment style, we're just avoiding the whole thing. Give us some advice on that. And how can people gain some clarity on what they need to do?
Deciding whether or not to end your relationship can be such a difficult, painful process for so many different reasons. And looking back, I absolutely regretted staying in my relationships as long as I did. And one of the main components I see is that there's good and bad, or like challenges, or like the shadow side of your relationship.
Yeah.
And so working through that evaluation of what's working, what's not working, to see where the balance lies. Like, even though there may be some good, still there are these core elements often around compatibility, communication, commitment. Sometimes it's circumstances that are really just putting this stress on your relationship, so that overall it's not a great fit where you and your partner are showing up in the best way possible. So I find that first step of, what's called discernment is really important, because once you're clear that you do want to end a relationship, then it's a lot easier to move on to the next steps, discussing the logistics of the split. For example, if you live together, work together, you're financially intertwined, or you have like pets or any sort of major ties. Just talking through all of the logistics of like, okay, what is that going to look like to begin to untangle our lives?
So how do we end relationships properly, would you say?
Communication really comes to mind. So often one partner is going through this process of evaluating their relationship and they're not communicating that to their partner. So if you don't let the other person know, I'm having these concerns, these doubts, all of this is coming up for me. If you break up with someone and you do not let them know that this is going on for you, it can make for an incredibly difficult and painful breakup.
Right.
But that can be very, very difficult because people are avoiding those challenging conversations. And so, yes, having those conversations leading up to it, really being grounded in yourself as to why you believe this split is necessary. And
so you're talking about, but here's the thing. I agree with you 100% with that effective communication, 100%. But what I find sometimes people do, I just had someone in my office the other day, and it's like we need to share within our relationship, whether you're dating someone or you're married or you're just in a long-term whatever. It's like we have to share when things start feeling off. We have to share that with our partner or whoever that we are in that relationship with. And I find so many people don't, because they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to cause any friction in the house or at work or wherever it is. It's like we have to let that other person know what's going on within us. And we're not great at that, unfortunately. Yeah.
And if you don't work on it now, it is just going to continue to show up through your life. Like, this is a necessary skill to have, to be able to honor yourself and all of your feelings and to communicate that with someone else. And the fact that you can do it with compassion and respect and love, and how that other person responds to what you've shared is not within your control. But I think the person initiating the split has a responsibility to begin to communicate, because then that other person can also maybe work on certain things, or they'll feel they had the opportunity, as opposed to just being blindsided by this breakup.
Right. And so many people, when I say that, I'll say, okay, why don't you go ahead and share that with your partner when you get home later? Let's just see, what they might say to that. Well, no, if I say that, my husband or my wife, they're not going to change. I hear that all the time. They're not going to change. I'm like, wait a minute. That's not true. People can change. We have to give them at least the opportunity. So it's how we say it. And in my model, I have the model called the adult chair. It's about stepping into your adult. So it's saying and sharing your reality without blame. And just sharing your reality. Like, this is what's going on for me. I just want to share it with you. And it can be like a 2-minute conversation or an hour. It doesn't matter, but you gotta, I feel like, get out whatever is going on inside of you that's causing angst with that other person. And unfortunately, we're just not great at that. I find that people are not great at that. We don't know how to do it. So I always advise people, just do it in little small doses. Like, okay, share one thing and let's see how it goes. Because the other thing people say is, well, if I say that to my husband, he's going to be so mad. How do you know? And it's how we say it. It's how we say it. Right?
Yes. Yes. So much can be worked on, cleaned up within communication. But communication is a skill. Yeah. So if you're not good at it, then start working in that area of life, because it's invaluable in our lifetime.
Right. It really is. So, and the other thing is what happens, again, I love your idea of effective communication, and what happens though if I'm in a relationship with a husband that's a narcissist, let's say, or that just does not want to hear me or really angry, and I then want to share my reality with them. There are some people that are not interested in hearing what's going on with my reality, and that I'm upset with them or I'm hurt by them. What do you say to those people?
Well, when it comes to, like, based on my experience working with narcissists, if you don't have that two-way of effective communication and someone doesn't, want to receive what you're sharing, then it's really difficult to progress in that relationship. And because without that willingness for both parties to make the relationship great, it's probably not going to get better.
I agree. Yeah.
And it's really hard for people to hear that, but just recognizing that and beginning to test the waters with, okay, well, let me try to have some of these conversations. And when you continue to see that they go nowhere, then it will strengthen you to begin to think about potentially leaving.
Mm-hmm. And how much you really want to tolerate in that relationship if they're not willing to work with us in building the relationship and making it stronger. I don't care who we are in a relationship. They take work. They really do take work, because there are no two people on the planet that are exactly alike, that will have all of the exact same wounding as we have, or ideas that we have about how to be healthy or love. So it's necessary to communicate with that other person what we need, what's going on within our reality. And if that other person can't hear us, it might be time to move on. And we move on to what you do, the breakup coach. So we may need you then. So how do we know though, and I'm hearing what you just said, which is if that other person really is unwilling to try, then we have to move into, ending that relationship. Correct?
Yes. There's nowhere to go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know so many people have, we don't want to be alone, or we feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do this on my own. I don't want to do this, but it's necessary if that other person is not willing to communicate and be there with you and, help grow that relationship.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I also often say that breaking up is a skill. So when you know how to exit a relationship, then you're not there out of fear of like, well, I just don't even know how to begin to get out of this. So sometimes when I worked with people, even if they're not ready to leave, I'm like, okay, let's just have a conversation about what that would look like. Because sometimes what's getting in the way of staying stuck is just, not knowing how to get out. And another thing is very short-term thinking, because people get so caught up in how difficult it would be to separate that they're disconnected from the vision of what their life could be like to be in a healthy, fulfilling, win-win relationship.
That's so true. Such a great point. And with my clients that have wanted to end a relationship and they say, I can't, no. And I'm like, well, let's, I think you're absolutely right. It's about grounding it and saying, okay, hold on a second. What might it look like? Oh, well, I don't know. I'm not going to have any money. Really? Have you been to an attorney? Let's go to an attorney and find out exactly how much money that you get. And then they go and they come back. They go, oh, I had no idea. Okay. So there's more bringing in, again, grounded truth. So, and then what will happen with the children? What will happen with this? And then people go, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I would get the kids on these. It changes everything when we have more truths and facts around what it might look like when we move out of that relationship. And we cannot make a decision until we have all those facts.
Yeah, sometimes the first step is just talking through those logistics.
Absolutely. I agree. So I've got a big whopper for you. What about infidelity? When you work with your clients, is there a way that we can actually overcome infidelity? So many people just say, my wife cheated on me, my husband cheated, whomever, I'm out, I'm done. What do you say to your clients that have this going on?
Oh, infidelity is so difficult and painful, and any kind of betrayal can really cut to your core and feel existential, because it can trigger your trust in the world. That something that you believed in is not true.
Right.
And how it can impact our sense of worthiness. So I take a bit of a different approach when it comes to infidelity, because over the years, I didn't start out working with people with infidelity, but Yes. Over the years, I have talked to a number of clients where they wanted to work through infidelity. They just didn't believe they could. And they didn't know how. And the very common narrative around infidelity is if someone cheats on you, you leave.
Right. Exactly.
And that's just it. However, when you really like talk to people about like the circumstances of the infidelity or what they're really upset about, you just start to see that it's a lot more multifaceted than you would think. Yes, the circumstances, what led up to it, people's attachment styles can also really play into how they handle infidelity. So my approach is a lot more compassionate. And currently, I'm actually working with a handful of clients who are working through infidelity. And a part of the reason that I know how to be with that is that in my first relationship, and I don't talk about this a lot online, but in that first relationship of 7 years, he cheated on me a number of times.
Wow.
And I have so much curiosity for myself about why I stayed. And now knowing I had this anxious attachment style, I know it was especially difficult for me to leave. Like I was so addicted to him, but he was also a great person.
Yeah.
He was a great person. My family loved him. But there was just this part of him that just seemed to keep acting out in these ways. And we also did a lot of long distance in those years. And so a part of my mind could reason why and how this had happened. But what I didn't have were the skills to move beyond it. So now I believe it is possible, but moving beyond infidelity is a choice.
Right. Right. And you can't stay in the past. It's got to be a choice to move forward, but both people have to be willing to move forward and really, really work. And again, it goes back to communicate, effective communication.
Yes. Yes. And now as I've worked with couples or even had people share their stories with me about how they overcame infidelity, now I feel I have expanded to believe in the possibility that people are capable, but it is a choice. Like knowing myself, I think I would have a very, very hard time. And I just have to accept that about myself, that I just know it would trigger so many things for me that I would just not be my best self in that relationship. And for that reason, I would need to leave. Based on what I definitely experienced in the past, I became a very angry person in that relationship.
Okay. Yeah. But you then ultimately decided to end that relationship. Yes?
Well, I did, because we were so on and off that during one of the times that we were not together, I ended up meeting the man who became my ex-fiance. And sometimes I think I wouldn't have like really made that break, that clean break, if I hadn't met someone else.
Got it. Interesting. Talk a little bit about shame. A lot of people do feel shame in staying and embarrassment if I choose to stay, even though my partner has cheated on me. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So Esther Perel, who wrote The State of Affairs, I really love her work. And she has a lot of credibility, and I love that she is expanding the conversation and in terms of like all of the people involved as well. And like from the perspective of like, she really goes deep with the person who's cheated. And because so many people focus on, quote unquote, the victim of a betrayal.
Of course. Yeah.
So in terms of the shame of staying, yes, a lot of people often will not respect the choice that someone's made to stay. And as Esther Perel says, staying is the new shame.
Ooh. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that often the common narrative is that leaving is the empowered choice.
Right. And it's not true.
Not always. Sometimes it is.
So, sometimes it is, but it's not always true.
No.
And you have to consider like why that person, I look at both parties, when I have a couple that has come in and one person has cheated on the other, it's like, well, what the heck, and the one person might, if it's a woman, she might be crying and blaming and so upset. But I'm always curious about like, what's going on, with your husband or your wife or whomever that cheated, like what's going on inside of you? Because there's a lot going on inside of there. And I know that you had talked about, you can even make your relationship stronger. Because when you can get into the meat of why that person strayed to begin with and really work on some of that wounding that probably happened many, 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 many years ago, it can really bring people together stronger than ever. Have you had that experience?
Yes. I've been working with a couple for a few months now, and the boyfriend, were together for 5 years. Boyfriend was working abroad, had an affair. And then, yes, it came to light many months later. So he came to me, they had broken up, but he still really cared for her and contacted me, shared with me his story. And I really got that he had a lot of remorse around what had happened. And he really wanted to work through this. So, but they were in a little bit of communication, and they were in that state where they wanted to work through it. They just didn't know how. And she just thought, my family will never accept you after seeing me in so much pain. So then I started working with her. And very slowly over the last 3 months, we've began to rebuild their connection and trust. And the philosophy I love to apply to this. Have you heard of kintsugi?
I feel like I have. I don't know what that is though.
So you can imagine, it's a Japanese tradition where they have broken pottery that's been put back together with gold.
Okay.
And glued back.
Okay.
And so you'll see these ribbons of gold in this pottery. And the philosophy is that things can be more beautiful for having been broken.
I have heard of that. Okay. That makes sense now. Yes. I love that.
And it can be applied to a broken heart also, that concept of breaking you open.
Mm-hmm.
But really every relationship is a kintsugi relationship. Because
so true.
You'll always be disappointed by someone, but it's in how you repair that you can become stronger. So in the case of this couple, something major that came up for them, and they both agreed, was that they were having issues in their relationship, but they were not communicating it. And even the girlfriend was very aware that, not that she was blaming herself at all, but she was very aware of we were not communicating at all. And so now they are really taking that on to be committed to, communicating and being in each other's worlds. And I see them now as potentially being a lot stronger than they were before.
See, I love that. And so many of us grow up in households where our parents don't exactly communicate with us on a level of, or I should say on an emotional level. It's more okay, are you fed? Here's your clothes. Let me go watch you in sports, and they look like a very connected family. But if you're not communicating on the emotional levels and really sharing what's going on, how do you feel? Let's talk about that. How the heck are we supposed to then get into relationships with others as we age and have effective and honest communication and sharing your feelings if we didn't have that when we were growing up? So it's no wonder that we have relationships that fail, because if we didn't learn it when we were growing up, then hello, I found that actually with my husband. I grew up in this household where very emotional, talking about everything, very connected to my family, Italian, all over the place emotions. But we talked about everything. I talked to everything about with my mom. But he came from a family that, again, on the outside looking in, wonderful family. And they're wonderful people, but they're not very emotional. So when he and I got together And we still work on it. Something happened the other day. I was like, do you need something from me? And he has a hard time even going there. He just wasn't raised with it. Again, not that it was bad or wrong. It's just different. And so we always are working on, okay, tell me what you feel, like what's going on? What do you need? And again, having a willing partner is everything. It's everything.
Yes.
Yes. And so many people don't have that. They're like, nope, not going there. And they're avoidantly attached or just not wanting to go there, or they're afraid to be vulnerable with themselves or others. So they just don't do it. But that's the key to having and repairing relationships, that whether it's infidelity or you're on the verge of a breakup. I hear also from people that go, oh my God, my husband just came in and wants a divorce. I'm like, well, what the heck happened? Then the wife will be like, I have no idea. Well, has he not shared anything in 20, 30 years? Nope. And, I hear these and I'm like, oh my gosh, and then we drag him in and I'm like, well, what's going on? Well, 20 years ago, it all started. I'm like, did you share it with her? No. Well, how do you expect people to change if you don't share what's going on with your reality? So,
yes. And creating those opportunities. Like
right.
because some couples, they just kind of think that a good relationship is just never having to talk about anything, but it's not. Like every once in a while, there will be these times where it's like, hey, let's, I have something to bring up. And then maybe that's an opportunity to bring up like things that have been happening recently. If your partnership knows that like regularly we have these times where we have these heart to hearts about like maybe some things that are going on in our blind spots, great. Then it's not like, okay, well, we need to talk. It's the end of the world. No, we're having a check-in.
Exactly. I love the check-in. Like, have you checked in with your person recently? No, not in a few months or a few years. I'm like, we talk about all this other stuff, but the most important things we avoid as humans, it seems like many people do at least. And that's the kind of thing we have to communicate if we want to stay connected in these relationships or, again, repair these relationships. So awesome. Any final points from you? This was really good. Anything else?
I've had also a couple people tell me when they've had these like major ahas around like, and some things that have come up with us is attachment theory, communication, just relationships being a skill set, or that I've had people say this should be taught in schools.
It should. I'm like, I agree.
And my first career was actually as a teacher. I taught for 8 years, and I thought absolutely it should be like your primary relationship is only like the most important. And the example I often use is how in business or in our profession, we're often encouraged to always be skilling up in that area. Professional development is a thing. And so similarly, in our relationship, there is no shame in working in that area to be better in relationships. So it's a skill set and it's something that we develop over our lifetime. So I would end on encouraging people to develop in that area of life.
I agree. I say to all my people, like, you have to hold the stance that it's all about me. Like I need to focus in on myself always so I can be the best me that I can be, whether it's just me by myself or me in any kind of relationship. If I'm not focusing in on me, then I don't know what my attachment styles are. I don't know if I'm anxious. I don't know if I'm communicating or not. I don't know if what my emotions are unless I'm focused on me. And it's not selfish to do that. It's actually very self-loving and self-aware. And again, so many humans, we project out on other people and we have to turn that focus back at ourselves, not to self-blame or judge, but to just become aware of what the heck is going on within me so I can be the best me and show up the best me even in relationships. So yes.
Absolutely.
Amen. Natalia, this was awesome. Thank you. It's a much needed conversation. Where can people find you? Do you have any special offers, anything like that? Let our listeners know, please.
So my website is called betterbreakups.com. And or they can find me on Instagram at The Breakup Coach. So in addition to the one-on-one coaching, I also have a book called Untangled, and it's all about breakup recovery. And that book is launching on Valentine's Day.
Oh, how perfect is that?
Isn't it?
It's perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on today. This was a real pleasure to have you. It's a much needed conversation. So thank you. Thank you for all that you do with your clients.
Oh, thank you, Michelle.
All right, everybody. I told you that was a really good show. Natalia knows her stuff. I would love to hear what you guys think about the show. Of course, hit me up on Instagram, Michelle.Chalfant, Chalfant, and let me know. And of course, don't forget, you can hit up Natalia at the Breakup Coach. She has an awesome Instagram as well. And if you want more adult chair and you want better conversations about the adult chair and just want to engage more and learn more, come join us in the Adult Chair membership site. Go to theadultchair.com/membership. I'm having a blast in there. I'm trying to get at least a video every week, if not every other week, as well as a private podcast, guided meditation, journaling prompts, all focused on a monthly theme. And this month is all about self-love. Who does not need more of that? That's what the Adult Chair is all about. So we're doing a live Q&A in a few weeks. So if you have specific questions, come join us there and I will be answering your questions right on that live Q&A. And if you miss it, we record everything. So theadultchair.com/membership. Come join us. That's all I've got for you today, you guys. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful week, and I will see you seated right here firmly next week, right in the Adult Chair.